Long before the Emperor rose and the Imperium was born, humanity reached outward from Terra with quiet determination. During the Age of Technology, vast colony ships crossed the darkness between stars, carrying settlers who would never return home. They traveled for solar decades, bound for distant worlds, chosen to feed and fuel a growing interstellar civilization. When a planet proved suitable, the great Long March vessels descended and settled upon its surface. The ships were dismantled almost at once, their metal and machinery turned into the foundations of new settlements. There was no thought of return. Survival was the only future. Many of these worlds were harsh and unforgiving. Some were stalked by vicious predators or defended by alien races who saw the newcomers as intruders. Others were racked by violent storms or cloaked in air that could not be breathed. Yet the settlers had come prepared. They brought standard template construct databases and fabrication systems, tools that allowed them to build powerful suits of exo-armor. Within those towering walking machines, protected by plasteel and armed with heavy weapons, the colonists could endure almost anything. Few beasts or hostile warriors could stand against them. They strode through dangerous landscapes with steady purpose, becoming familiar figures on the young colonies. The settlers called them knights, remembering the armored champions of ancient Terra. Over time, the control platforms known as Thrones Mechanicum shaped the minds of those who piloted him. Generation after generation, a warrior aristocracy emerged. The simple plates of early armor were replaced with ornate adamantium, reflecting rank and honor. Gradually, the knights withdrew from common labor. Tasks like logging forests with reaper chainswords or breaking rock with battle cannons were given to lesser hands. The nobles took up residence in towering strongholds, ruling and protecting the settlers who had become their subjects. In this way, the knightly houses formed, and their influence grew strong during the Age of Technology. The Golden Era did not endure. Around the 22nd millennium of Terra's reckoning, humanity's vast empire faltered. Terrible wars broke out, invasions spread, and the first human psychers emerged amid fear and uncertainty. The use of sentient machines remembered as the Men of Iron deepened the turmoil. By the 25th millennium, violent warp storms tore across the galaxy. Worlds were cut off from one another, isolated in darkness. This time came to be called the Age of Strife or Old Night, when travel between many colonies became impossible. Some night worlds fell to ruin in that long storm of destruction, yet others endured. The knightly houses, cautious and resistant to change, had avoided much of the excess that weakened other planets. They had shunned psychers and distrusted thinking machines, holding tightly to tradition. So when madness spread, many night worlds were sidelined, taking little part in the greater conflicts. Cut off and forgotten, the warrior aristocracy strengthened its rule. Influenced by the Thrones Mechanicum, they imposed neo-feudal systems upon their home worlds. In time, exploratory fleets from the Mechanicum of Mars ventured out using sublight drives, seeking lost standard template construct technologies. They discovered clusters of human worlds that had regressed into feudal cultures, ruled by aristocratic castes, bound by honor, fealty, and duty. On these planets, each noble owed allegiance to a house whose ruler could command their service. Strongholds rose across the landscapes, known as castles, fastnesses, or mansions depending on local custom. Rivalries simmered between houses, sometimes erupting into warfare, though often expressed through contests of skill and tradition. As centuries stretched into millennia, the night worlds grew ever more inward-looking. Ritual and etiquette shaped daily life. For many nobles, the only true freedom lay in donning their armor and riding to battle, where the old codes still felt alive. After 5,000 Terran years, the Imperium rose from the ashes of old night. Guided by the Emperor, humanity once again reached for the stars in the Great Crusade. World after world was brought back into compliance, and among them were the scattered night worlds. When rogue trader Militant Jeffers rediscovered the world of Crisis, he saw at once the value of its nightly houses. He described them as born warriors, a resource the Imperium could not ignore. The Administratum agreed, and efforts began to locate other surviving night worlds. Though thousands had once existed, only several hundred remained. Most shared familiar traits. Gothic strongholds dominated the landscape, often built upon the very sites where the first colony ships had landed. Within their ancient halls lingered fragments of those original vessels. Around these fortresses stretched vast farms and strip mines, continuing the old purpose of sustaining humanity. Between the settlements roamed great grazing herds, often reptilian beasts introduced long ago as livestock. Predators followed them, and it fell to the knights to guard both herd and field. Even on calmer worlds, vigilance never ceased. Alien raiders and pirates lurked in the void, and the knights stood ready, their towering forms patrolling the lands that had been entrusted to their care. Most knightly houses formed bonds with a forge world of the Adeptus Mechanicus. In exchange for fighting beside Titan legions, they received knowledge and technology that only the tech priests could provide. During the Great Crusade, Imperial factions competed fiercely for influence over the night worlds. In time, the Mechanicum of Mars secured the right to exploit them, drawn by the abundance of archaeotech and natural resources. They also recognized the military strength of the knights. Tech priests settled among the feudal empires, founding forge worlds and restoring lost expertise. Many knight suits had fallen into disrepair during Old Night. Local artificers had preserved what they could, but much knowledge had faded. The Mechanicum inducted these technicians into the Cult Mechanicus, teaching them to maintain and restore the ancient armor. From then on, most knight suits bore the mark of Mars, a reminder of that debt. Across the millennia, forge worlds and night worlds grew mutually dependent. Great cargo ships arrived bearing new suits, weapons, and tools, and departed laden with ores and food. Yet the relationship was not always simple. Tension sometimes simmered between the proud nobles and the sacristans trained to tend their armor. The Great Crusade ended in betrayal. The Horus Heresy plunged the Imperium into civil war. Space Marines fought their brothers, Titans clashed, and Knights faced Knights. On Molech, one of the most dreadful betrayals unfolded. As Horus advanced toward Terra, Loyalist forces gathered to halt him. Among them stood House Divine. Yet after devastation swept their world, the house faltered. Over months, whispers of Slaanesh spread through their ranks. Discipline eroded, secret rites replaced honor. When Horus launched his assault, House Divine turned upon their allies. Caught between advancing traitor titans and chaos knights striking from behind, the Loyalists were annihilated. Only a fraction survived. Though few knightly houses would ever fall to chaos, the stain of that betrayal lingered long in memory. For millennia, the Knights have stood as both shield and sword. Their story mirrors that of humanity itself, from Terra's early struggles to dominion among the stars. As population surged and resources waned, humanity turned outward. Mars was terraformed and distant colonies were founded, though those furthest away learned self-reliance in isolation. With the mastery of standard template construct systems and warp travel guided by navigators, expansion flourished. Generational Long March ships carried pioneers who had found the first night houses. From the beginning, duty and obedience shaped their culture, forming what would later be called the Code Chivalric. When the age of strife fell upon the galaxy, many night worlds endured through discipline and strength. Later, the Emperor forged the Treaty of Mars, binding Terra and the Mechanicum. As the Great Crusade began, night worlds swore fealty, and Chrysis was rediscovered. Some pledged themselves to explorator fleets or Titan legions, others to Primarchs and commanders. Across the stars, their war engines humbled countless foes, and it seemed their place in the Imperium was secure. During the Battle of Beta Garmon, Knights fought beside Titans in a conflict so vast it was called the Titan Death. Entire households were reduced to wreckage. House Vextrix suffered grievously, and the war came to be remembered as the Great Cull. On Molech, House Divine's treachery proved decisive. The destruction of the Imperator Titan Paragon of Terra shattered loyalist lines, and the defenders were slaughtered. After Horus fell, the Great Scouring began. Knights hunted down those who had betrayed them, seeking redemption. Houses Cadmus, Terran, and Borgias united to destroy the remnants of House Divine. In later ages, the Knights faced orc invasions, demonic tides, and endless wars. On Godsmote, High Queen Desmoderatarin led her forces against the Daemon tide. Though many fell, the great unclean one Bolothrax was banished, and the house earned both glory and a terrible grudge. On Delante, the Freeblade Vigilantes stood watch beneath a harvest moon. When a warp breach unleashed a Lord of Skulls, he gave his life to banish it. On Corvax, a fallen pilot's throne Mechanicum guided an unmanned knight into battle against Iond and Ghost warriors. Even in death, it fought on. When contact was made with Grog after long isolation, ancient technology was found preserved. Peace was fragile, strained by the lore of Archaeotech. Elsewhere, House Hawkshroud's silence shocked allies, and across many worlds, knights battled orcs, demons, and Necrons. On Avaris, ion shields flared as Necron legions rose from tombs, and the fight to reclaim the world was long and bitter. When Hive Fleet Kraken threatened Yorvith, knights errant of House Griffith charged to clear the way for evacuation. Amid smoke and ichor, they bought precious moments for escape. House Raven leapt between spires on Ireus, battling Hive Fleet Leviathan in thin gravity. Though the world was lost, countless lives were saved. Canis Rex rose again on Randarin Alpha, freeing Sir Hector, who swore the Freeblade Oath and fled to wage endless war against chaos. During the 13th Black Crusade, many houses rushed to defend the Cadian Gate, yet even their strength could not prevent Cadia's fall. As the Great Rift tore open, the nobles braced for a return of darkness. When the Astronomicon flared anew, Robut Gilliman declared the Indomitus Crusade. House Tyrannus committed nearly all its strength, awakening ancient relics for the war. On Randarin Alpha, Canis Rex and Sir Hector had already become symbols of resistance. Elsewhere, House Raven sent lance after lance into the void, their sacristans calculating the cost. On Dracatoria, shadow spawn from Aelindrak infested the world. House Griffith descended through darkness, driving back mandrakes and shattering the source of the breach. House Grast launched crusades of vengeance toward distant Forge worlds, seeking to repay ancient debts in blood and fire. On Altiva IV, Heldrux descended from a ruined Forge temple. Princeps Adalis led her knights up the mountain slopes, and for days flame and gunfire lit the smog until the mechanical dragons were no more. When Hive Fleet Hydra struck death's welcome, its somber nobles marched in black and bone, singing as they met the Tyranid tide. Though only a handful survived, the world endured. Across the Imperium, Necron tombs stirred. On Voltoris, High King Tybalt recalled his forces to defend home against awakening legions. Forge worlds and night worlds alike found themselves besieged. On Derivar, Sir Drantar of House Tyrannus hunted the mad knight called Litany of Destruction. Amid endless wars between rival knights, Red Might met its quarry at last, steel against steel beneath troubled skies. There are many hundreds of night worlds scattered across the vast dominion of mankind. Long ago, bold explorers pushed outward into the galactic wilderness, searching for habitable planets or worlds that could be reshaped to sustain human life. Among those early fleets were vessels carrying Knight Standard template construct technology, and with it came protection for the fragile colonies they founded. More than 15 Terran millennia have passed since those first journeys into the stars, yet their distant descendants still dwell upon these night worlds. Though knightly houses have risen and fallen with the slow turning of ages, those that endure can trace their lineage back to a time before the Imperium itself was born. Every such world feels heavy with that inheritance, no matter where it lies or how advanced its technology may be. Each night world stands aligned either with the Imperium of Man, as part of the Questor Imperialis, or more closely with the Adeptus Mechanicus as one of the Questor Mechanicus. Those sworn to the Imperium render the imperial tithe like any other planet, yet they still trade with the Adeptus Mechanicus, so their knight suits may remain whole and battle-ready. Worlds bound directly to the Adeptus Mechanicus are often found near the forge worlds to which they are tied. This closeness is no accident. Many forge worlds were founded beside existing night worlds, so their rich natural resources could be harvested. When Titan legions march forth from those forge worlds to wage war against the enemies of mankind, they often do so beside their knightly allies. The bond between forge and night world strengthens both, and together their might is sufficient to shatter cities and conquer entire worlds. Far in the galactic northwest lies the Striken system, its heart the smoke-wreathed forge world of Striken Primus. Around it stand 3 nearby night worlds, Striken the Second, the Fourth, and the Fifth, each sheltering several knightly houses. These worlds were once Eldari maiden worlds, where exodite tribes herded giant reptiles and bipedal carnivores, until they were driven away after mankind's arrival. With the strength of 11 knightly houses, including Aragon and Dorath, Striken Primus has no Titan legion upon its soil. Instead, it forges vast quantities of munitions for the defense of the Cadian Gate, guarded always by the Order of Iron. Chosen from the most capable nobles of every house, those who join this order earn great honor, and their leader bears the title of Forge Warden, commanding as though ruling a house of their own. On the edges of the Segmentum Obscurus within the Sanctus Reach stands Alaric Prime, a harsh world of sulphurous seas and burning acidic tides. Islands stretch in long chains across its surface, while simple folk labor with tools of wood and iron beneath the rule of proud nobles. At the heart of its largest island rises Sacred Mountain, and beneath it is said to lie a vault of archaeotech and lost lore. The Freeblade, known as Garantius the Forgotten Knight, keeps watch there, ancient and steadfast, rising from his tomb whenever Alaric Brine is threatened. Beyond the far eastern reaches of the Ultima Segmentum lies Avarice, within the war-torn Vidar sector. Founded unknowingly upon a world once claimed by the Necron Satek dynasty, its knightly houses were caught unawares when reawakened Xenos machines emerged from tomb complexes beneath the surface in 975 of the 41st Millennium. The ion shields of their knight suits blunted the terrible power of Gauss weaponry, and with 3 houses united, Imperial forces answered with swift and brutal resolve. Though war still endures in the depths below, the rulers of Avarice believe the Necron threat will soon be broken. Crusade, close to the Sol system, is the home of House Crust, the first of its kind rediscovered at the dawn of the Great Crusade. Falling under the jurisdiction of Mars, it endured the devastation of the Horus Heresy, leaving Krast the sole surviving house. With the support of the Forge world, and with resources still plentiful, it rebuilt from its losses. Dragon's End is a volcanic world once ruled by winged drakes that hunted megasaur herds across its valleys. When human settlers arrived and House Griffith was founded, Terran horses were brought with them, and the nobles became skilled riders. Before knight suits were completed, they fought the dragons on horseback in armor of obsidian. Nathaniel, greatest among them, slew 3 dragons with a dragonbone lance and became the first ruler of his house. Even after the dragons were defeated by towering knights, the lessons of those early battles were never forgotten. Teutonis lies in the galactic northeast of the Segmentum Obscurus, a bitter volcanic world rich with mineral ore and adamantium veins threading through its crust. Rival houses Navarros and Borges guarded fiercely against alien and traitor alike, knowing the cost should such wealth fall into the wrong hands. Colossae, the fortress world of House Raven, stands under the rule of Lord Greven Raven, the Iron Duke, seated upon the adamantium throne within the keep inviolate. Once a world of plains and forests, it was stripped by industry as legions of knights were forged and continents were mined bare. In alliance with the Forge world of Metallica, its transformation deepened until only pits, slag heaps, and smog wreathed manufactoria remained. A few cities endure amid the deep gore shafts, islands of steel and smoke upon a scarred world. In the northern reaches of the Ultima Segmentum, near the Blood Angels' homeworld of Baal, lies Grastalon. Its black hills and desolate moors stretch beneath freezing rain, and villages cling to valleys and broken shores where people herd cattle or fish storm-tossed seas. In ancient stone keeps, the nobles of House Hogshroud dwell by the light of open fires, rejecting excess and embracing only what is needed to keep their knights functioning. Their reputation for honoring debts and keeping their word is held as dearly as their strength in battle. Molech was once a night world, home to House Divine. During the turmoil of the Horus Heresy, mistrust and betrayal spread across the Imperium, and this house, dispossessed and weakened, fell to the temptations of chaos. The Whisper of Slaanesh took hold, turning their focus to indulgence and cruel sport within the jungles of Molech. Secret rites followed, and when Horus launched his great assault, culminating in the Battle of Molech, the Knights of House Divine turned upon their loyalist allies. With Titans pressing from the front and Chaos Knights from behind, the Imperial forces were trapped and shattered, and only a fraction survived. Far to the galactic south stands Raisa, a heavily forested world where thick growth covers nearly all but the highest plateaus. From the greatest of these rises Golem Keep, stronghold of House Cadmus, named for the elementals that once roamed the wilds before being hunted to extinction. Beneath the forest canopy now dwell unstable abhumans descended from ancient stock. Though the knights could destroy them easily, tradition restrains their hand, and each year they take part in the cull to keep numbers in check and to sharpen their hunting skills. Rapture was once the jewel of the Reductus sector until a tendril of High Fleet Leviathan left it a near lifeless husk. Now a dead world, it supports human life only within a final surviving habdome. House Eremos refuses to abandon it, holding fast to the memory of ancestors who settled there 15 standard millennia ago. From Orid Keep, they venture daily into the wastelands to hunt lingering Tyranid broods that survived the Imperium's purge. On the eastern fringe lies Volturus, tranquil yet watchful, home to House Terran, Vast green oceans surround tropical islands where predators stalk jungle shadows, offering constant challenge to the knights who train there. Though spared many disasters by distance, they travel widely to fight in distant wars, seeking worthy foes. In recent centuries, they have been drawn closer to home by the threats of High Fleet Leviathan and the expanding Tau Empire, and they stand ready, ever eager for battle. The descendants of the earliest human pioneers endure within the knightly houses of the Imperial Knights, known in High Gothic as the Questoris Familia. Long ago, those settlers arrived upon distant and often hostile worlds, and in order to survive, they dismantled their own sublight colony ships, turning precious machinery into shelter and tools. From those remnants grew vast strongholds, stern and martial in form, their hearts still holding fragments of the advanced technologies carried across the stars in ages past. In time, the simple roles of protector and castellan matured into noble lineages. These structures of authority were already ancient when the Imperium of Man was young. Across worlds separated by immense distances, the houses developed cultures that seem strangely alike. That likeness is rooted in the ritual of becoming, the solemn union between a noble and a suit of knight armor. When a pilot connects at a neural level with the war spirit within the armor, something profound occurs. Human mind and artificial intelligence intertwine, shaping thought and instinct alike. From this joining arise societies that mirror one another despite never sharing direct contact, each world distinct in environment, yet similar in custom and bearing. The Imperial Knights value their independence. They swear oaths of fealty to the Imperium and often to the Adeptus Mechanicus, yet they are not subjects in the common sense. Their traditions reach back thousands of Terran years, even before the age of technology in many cases. Their identity is shaped less by outside influence and more by the bond between noble and armor. Life within their fortresses is defined by relentless ritual. Ceremonies unfold with rigid formality, and daily existence is bound to courtly duties that can feel endless and strangely hollow. Against this stillness stand the knight pilots themselves. They are warriors who find meaning only in battle. For them, the thunder of war and the closeness of death are far preferable to the quiet weight of ceremony. Raised from birth for conflict, they devote every spare moment to preparation and training. To plan for battle is to breathe freely. The alternative, the slow passage of days within stone walls, is a fate they can scarcely bear to imagine. Across the Imperium, there are many hundreds of knightly houses, each bearing its own history, yet some rise above the rest as giants among their peers. These are the great houses, whose renown was earned through legendary deeds or through the favor of powerful imperial institutions. Among them stand both the Questor Mechanicus, sworn primarily to the priesthood of Mars, and the Questor Imperialis, who serve the Imperium directly. House Tyranids is remembered as the first of all knightly houses. Founded upon Mars during the Age of Terra, it guarded the Red Planet as its industries grew into a vast center of technological mastery. Designs for armored exosuits, derived from those first worn by the Knights of Tyranids, were carried outward with the earliest expansion fleets. Much later, during the Great Crusade, the ancient Mechanicum likely drew upon this knowledge to secure the loyalty of the rediscovered Night Worlds. On the Night World of Crisis, House Grast rose to prominence when the world was rediscovered by rogue traitor Militant Jeffers at the dawn of the Great Crusade. Its closeness to Mars allowed swift resupply and strengthened its alliance with the Mechanicum. The Knights of Grast marched eagerly in the Emperor's wars, yet tragedy followed when Horus's traitor forces descended upon Crisis. Returning to a shattered home, the house vowed that whenever chaos appears, they will be there to strike it down. House Raven is the largest of all, its knights numbering in the hundreds. Dozens of households stand ready to answer the summons of the Adeptus Mechanicus. The reason for their abundance remains uncertain. Ancient records speak of a piece of STC archaeotech once present on Colossae, their homeworld, though long since lost. During the Great Crusade, Lord Gregor Raven forged a pact with the Forge World of Metallica, ensuring his house would have Sacristans to tend its many suits. That oath of fealty endures to this day. On the forested world of Raisa, House Cadmus gathers each Midsummer's Eve for the Cull, an annual hunt to reduce the numbers of mutants. Bio-reading cogitators record each kill, and the knight who claims the most becomes ruler for the next tearing year. Leadership has changed hands often, yet Baron Roland of Swinford Hall has held command for 32 standard years. His house now faces hardship after defending the nearby Forge World of Gryphon IV from High Fleet Leviathan, and a grim future lingers if the Tyranid threat remains. House Griffith prizes courage and skill above all. Duels of honor and the jousting tourney known as the Field of Adamantium determine standing within their society. Favoring knight-errant armor and its thermal cannon, they are close-range specialists, often preferring to charge forward with Reaper chainswords rather than rely upon distant fire. For House Hawkshroud, honor is paramount. Their knights answer nearly every call from allies they respect, so often that many are absent from their homeworld of Grastelon. Viscount Tudon quietly fears the day Grastelon itself is threatened, wondering whether past bonds will be repaid in kind. From the peaceful world of Voltoris comes House Terran, rich in battle honors and steeped in ritual. Their daily intonation, the 1,000 canticles of war long awaited, lasts nearly 3 solar hours. Perhaps it is this weight of ceremony at Furion Peak that drives them so eagerly to campaign far from home. Beyond the great houses lie hundreds of lesser knightly houses, their deeds no less brave, though less widely known. The houses of Mortan, Alphalos, and Talmus once stood together in defense of the hive world of Hexus Alpha, saving more than 100 billion lives when a warp rift unleashed a tide of demons across the planet. House Dorath has long provided valiant knights to the Order of Iron, the elite guardians of the Forge world of Striken Primus. In other regions, the Ebon Knights of House Wintervale have repelled dozens of Drugari raids near their homeworld, earning lasting enmity from the Scions of Gamora. The artificers and technicians of the Night Worlds, once local maintainers of ancient armor, came to be known as Sacristans after induction into the cult Mechanicus. When cargo ships arrive from a forge world to collect food and resources, they also carry away a small group of apprentices. These youths may be noble sons or farmers' children, drawn from every level of society. During a solar decade of apprenticeship, they learn the skills required to maintain suits of knight armor. When they return home as fully trained sacristans, they carry more than technical knowledge. Unbeknownst to the knights, they have also been indoctrinated into the cult Mechanicus, forming a quiet network that advances the interests of the tech priests. Even before this formal bond, local artificers held vital status within each house. With Mechanicus training, their influence only grew. Styling themselves as a priesthood guarding half-forgotten technological mysteries, they began to speak with one voice. By threatening to withdraw their services, they gained authority nearly equal to that of the nobles. Often this balance has steadied knightly society, tempering arrogance and mediating feuds between houses. Yet their political strength also serves the Adeptus Mechanicus, which seeks to guide the Night Worlds according to its own designs. Still, the Knights' deep sense of honor and duty frequently leads them along paths the ruling Magi would rather they avoid. Though open war between knightly houses is rare, it has occurred. On the Night World of Teutones, houses Navarros and Borgias have feuded for several standard millennia. The conflict began when the matriarch of Borgias was accused of seducing the firstborn son of the Count of Navarros and poisoning him after he rejected her. Since then, relations have flared repeatedly into violence. At times, Sacristans have requested intervention from the nearby forge world of Lucius to prevent the fighting from halting adamantium production. During the Civil War of 156 in the 41st millennium, the tech adepts of Lucius authorized the deployment of a demi-legion of Titans from the Legio Astorum to restore order. Since the days following the Horus Heresy, the Night Worlds have remained steadfast allies of the Imperium. Feared in battle and unwavering once their word is given, they are welcomed by Imperial commanders whenever they can be spared. Yet their numbers are few, and their rigid societies limit the scale of their influence. Within their strongholds, life is shaped by traditions that stretch back more than 10,000 standard years. Rituals fill each day, honoring ancestors and upholding ancient customs. In House Hasbird, every dawn brings the reading of the names and deeds of every ruler since its founding, a recitation so long it consumes most of the day. Escape from this weight lies in conflict. Only the first or second sons of the aristocracy may pilot knight armor, and when they do, the transformation is profound. Bound at court by endless rules, they find freedom within the armor, guided only by conscience and purpose. Their ferocity in battle reflects this release, and their training is relentless. When armor cannot be worn, contests of bravery and skill fill the void. Yet beneath this lies another impulse. The neural link to the throne's mechanicum instills respect for hierarchy, but also endless ambition. Nobles strive to outshine one another, not only through combat but through intricate political intrigue. Consorts play their part as well, wielding influence and forging alliances through marriage. Many a noble's ascent has been shaped by the cunning of a highborn partner, while he sought glory in war. Plots and rivalries swirl within these courts, sometimes trivial, sometimes deadly. On the planet Patronus, a dispute over visiting rituals grew into a centuries-long conflict that devastated the world and ended both houses involved. For thousands of Terran years, the rulers of the night worlds have been shaped by the mental influence of the throne mechanicum. Loyalty, honor, and ceremony run deep within them. Each household bears its own heraldry, rites, and history, known from the highest baron to the lowest worker serf. Among the great houses aligned with the Adeptus Mechanicus, their mottos echo these values. House Tyranids declares, "Honor thy forge, honor the Primos Ordinus." House Krast proclaims, "Crush the serpent." House Volker speaks of gilded glory in the name of the Omnissiah. House Raven affirms its vow with honor inviolate, Colossi eternal. House Adamant stands unyielding and unrelenting, while House Durbog binds faith and steel together in strength. Each noble of a night house was once known as a scion, a warrior who carried their own chronicle of battle and bore the weight of their forebears' traditions and glories. From the first rising of a scion aspirant, newly elevated to command their armor and filled with quiet dreams of future honor, to the seasoned scions marshal who formed the steady line of battle, each life was shaped by war. Above them stood those who guided the household's command, figures who had already written their legends in fire and steel. When open war came and an entire house strode to the field, every scion understood their place. Roles were shaped by ancient custom as much as by the reputation of the armor and the warrior within it. When such a host was unleashed, it moved like a tide of iron and fire, relentless and immense. Few forces in the galaxy could endure its advance. At the height of a night household's order stood the Seneschal, a title heavy with both authority and expectation. Whether leading mustered forces in the field or ruling a fortified keep upon a night world, such a figure had proven their worth in personal combat, in command, and in the subtler trials of politics and dynastic struggle. Below the Seneschal were the Lord Scions, veterans known by many titles, such as Baron, Margrave, Ciridar, Count, or Thane, yet united beneath the same supreme command. Their standing had been earned in blood and fire, and their heraldry declared their record openly to friend and foe alike. Some scions showed a rare gift for understanding the workings of their armor, spending time beside sacristans while still retaining their rank. Those who mastered such knowledge and endured many wars might earn the honored name of preceptor, guiding aspirants and serving in battle through advanced augury and careful coordination. Older traditions lingered as well. The Octeller once stood as a forlorn hope, sworn to strike down the mightiest foe, even at the cost of their own life. Though such desperate roles were suppressed during the Great Crusade, the fires of the Horus Heresy rekindled their necessity. there were also those who stepped away from household bonds. Drawn by adventure, by battle lust, or by exile, they became Freeblades, owing no fealty and walking the stars as knights mendicant. Many joined the Crusade forces, fighting on distant worlds in service of the Emperor's great work. Within the battle line, the Knights Martial formed the steadfast banners of the house, while aspirants endured a dangerous apprenticeship to preserve the bloodline's strength. Among them, some earned the epithet Dolores, marked by triumph over monstrous predators and by a restless hunger for battle that could consume all else. Others followed the Ulan tradition, hot-blooded and swift, favoring rapid maneuver and close assault, often seeking the speed of Zerasta's pattern knights. The Arbalester, by contrast, dealt death from afar, shielding comrades through disciplined fire. In siege and in city ruin strode the implacable, steady amid chaos, crushing foes that sought to swarm their armor. Each title, each role, was a facet of the same enduring truth, that every scion stood within a lineage of war. When battle calls in a later age, the great war machines rise once more. Even a lone knight can turn back raiders or stamp out rampaging beasts. Yet when entire households march, the sight is both glorious and terrible. A high king commands obedience from all who owe fealty, and such duty is rarely denied. At times they answer the summons of the Imperium, perhaps at the request of a Lord Commander of the Astra Militarum or a Space Marine chapter master. At other times, wars are declared for honor alone, for the code chivalric binds the nobles tightly, even in matters others might deem slight. As knights stride from their strongholds, trumpets sound and citizens cheer, the display grows ever more splendid when barons assemble, and greater still when the High King leads the exalted court into war. Among the Questor Imperialis, the High King stands at the summit, with barons beneath, some elevated to the exalted court as the most loyal and experienced. The king's word guards their liege closely, sworn to give their life if required. In houses allied to the Adeptus Mechanicus, known as the Questor Mechanicus, the ruler bears the title Princeps. Barons serve beneath, and barons prime form the Princeps' own exalted court. Their bonds with Forge Worlds bring shared campaigns alongside Titan legions or journeys with explorator fleets in search of lost archaeotech. When war grows dire, the ruler may lead the entire household forth, and such musters have become more frequent in a galaxy darkened by the Great Rift. In battle, one knight may be named Knight Warlord, always holding the rank of Seneschal, and veterans who prove their worth may rise to that honored station. Within every household stand noble warriors who have proven themselves beneath the weight of war. They form the heart of each detachment, from the eager youngling newly blooded to the steady veteran marked by many engagements. The path begins with the ritual of becoming, a trial worthy of respect. A young pilot who endures it is named a Knight Apparent, and carries that title until they face their first full-scale battle. When that trial is survived, the word apparent falls away, and they are welcomed fully among their peers as an Imperial Knight. The exalted court gathers the ruler and chosen nobles, the very summit of leadership and strength. When they march, trumpets echo and the earth trembles beneath their stride. Though titles differ between houses, the bribe they carry is the same, and their power can level cities or break armies. A baron may muster their sworn knights into a baronial court, sometimes called a baronial escort or cavalier spearhead. Advancing in close formation, their shields interlocked and their guns blazing, they roll across the battlefield like an adamantine avalanche. From House Volker came the tripartite lance, 3 knights of Warden, Gallant, and Crusader classes fighting as one. Through the bond of their thrones mechanicum, they anticipate one another's movement and strike with unity that feels almost prescient. The gallant lance strikes with crushing momentum, its charge felt across great distances. Such force can breach the walls of traitorous hive cities, and within those walls their fury leaves little standing. Above them, a Sky Reaper lance casts a net of fire across the heavens. Armed with twin-linked Icarus autocannon, they command the sky, bringing down aircraft and winged beasts alike, leaving the ground strewn with wreckage and ruin. Though night worlds share feudal roots, each has shaped its own customs and titles. In House Griffith, the ruler bears the grand name of Grand Master of the Lance, a title fully justified by Grand Master Bryce, whose skill is spoken of across the galaxy. House Scandos names its nobles Jarls, and their detachments Jarl hosts, while House Raven's mighty stronghold is called the Keep Inviolate. This vast fortress shelters hundreds of knight suits and stands as one of the Imperium's greatest bastions. When mankind rediscovered the night worlds, oaths of loyalty were exchanged, binding houses either to the Imperium as Questor Imperialis or to the Adeptus Mechanicus as Questor Mechanicus. Those aligned with the Imperium pay the imperial tithe and yet maintain fierce independence, marching to war as allies rather than subjects. Others forged deeper bonds with the ancient Mechanicum, settling near Forge worlds and sharing in reciprocal protection and strength. Titan legions often stride to battle beside their knight allies, and together their might can shatter cities and conquer worlds. Though some question the motives of the tech priests, the Questor Mechanicus houses seem content in the exchange, sustained by the resources of their Forge world partners. Across all houses, whether Terran, Hawkshroud, Cadmus, Tyrannus, or Raven, traditions stretch back thousands of years, each bound by honor and by countless battles fought for humanity. There are knights who walk apart from any house, known as Freeblade Knights or simply Freeblades. The tradition reaches back to the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy, when legendary Freeblades stepped away from their households, whether by choice, exile, or survival. They were knights mendicant, owing no fealty, yet many fought in support of the Emperor's great work. In later ages, a noble may still claim the right to leave, becoming a solitary warrior driven by personal oath, by restlessness, or by the sorrow of being the last surviving member of their house. Some keep their former heraldry in remembrance, while others repaint their armor and take a new name. Figures such as the Knight of Dark Shadows, who fought in the Reign of Blood, and Retribution Incarnate, who traveled beside the Lord Commander Solar Maharius, are remembered for unwavering resolve. Freeblades wander the stars alone or with a few retainers and sacristans, sometimes gathering in small bands, forged not by blood but by shared battle. Honor and duty remain their guiding lights, perhaps even more fiercely than before. They protect the helpless and punish the cruel with brutal efficiency, then move on without seeking praise. For them, comfort lies only in the endless road and in the fierce, familiar surge of battle. The war machines of the Imperial Knights were not first conceived as engines of endless war. They were created to aid human interstellar colonization, to clear land, to lift heavy burdens, to make distant worlds habitable. Even now, beneath their solemn armor, that purpose still lingers. The Reaper Chainsword, so feared upon the battlefield, was once meant to carve through vast forests and choking growth for early settlers. Heavy lifting hooks remain fixed to each weapon, quiet reminders that these machines once carried tools and digging apparatus as readily as they now carry a battle cannon to drive back marauding orcs or Eldari. Much of the original endoskeleton lies hidden beneath sloped armor plates and layers of heraldry. If those plates were stripped away, the machine beneath would resemble the functional STC construction engines of the distant past, when colonists first relied on them to defend fragile settlements. Knight armor takes many forms, each shaped by its own strengths and frailties. There are broader classes, from the lighter Armiger pattern knights to the larger Questoris pattern knights and the heavy Dominus pattern knights. Among these, the Knight Paladin and the Knight Errant are most often seen, sharing the same frame yet bearing different weapons, balanced in maneuverability, protection, and firepower. All Imperial Knights are clad in thick adamantium armor and fitted with formidable weapon systems. Typically, 2 primary weapons are mounted upon their arms, supported by additional systems fixed to torso and shoulders. The armor itself was forged long ago, and so no 2 suits are quite the same. Plates, helms, and crests differ according to the artisan's hand. Across their surfaces, intricate heraldry proclaims allegiance and records deeds achieved in battle. Every line and color speaks of honor, memory, and duty carried forward across generations. The Knight Paladin stands as the archetype of the Imperial Knight, most often bearing a large caliber rapid-fire battle cannon and a towering Reaper Chainsword. Its cannon can shatter massed infantry, tear apart light vehicles or dual distant artillery, and even pierce the armor of a true Titan. As fire approaches, the pilot turns the directional ion shield toward the threat, softening the blow. With long, deliberate strides, the paladin repositions while firing, and if enemies draw near, heavy stubbers sweep them aside. In close combat, the chainsword or thunderstrike gauntlet can carve through armor with terrible certainty. The knight-errant shares the same frame, yet serves a different calling. Its thermal cannon unleashes blasts that melt blasteel bunkers and turn battle tanks to molten ruin. It excels at striking large foes, from Chaos Titans to Mega Gargants, reducing steel and flesh alike. When it closes the distance, its Reaper Chainsword or Thunderstrike Gauntlet can topple monstrous creatures in a single, engine-driven strike. A heavy stubber crowns its armored carapace, and even its bladed feet crush those caught beneath them. There are nobles who favor the Knight Gallant, aggressive and restless, armed only with a Thunderstrike Gauntlet and Reaper Chainsword. They reject long-ranged guns and surge forward, eager for personal glory. An ion shield and heavy armor carry them into the fray, while a heavy stubber clears the path of counter-attacking infantry. The Knight Preceptor embodies the code chivalric. It closes with the enemy at honorable range, armed with a chainsword or gauntlet, and the rare Los Impulsor. That weapon, short-ranged yet devastating, can bring down a fortress or cripple a titan with a focused salvo, allowing the noble to meet the foe face to face. In contrast, the Knight Crusader advances as a walking arsenal. Guided by tactically aware commanders, it supports the lance from the rear, unleashing sustained fire from a thermal cannon or Avenger Gatling cannon, joined by heavy stubber and heavy flamer. In moments, entire formations can be reduced to ruin beneath its barrage. The Knight Castellan and the Knight Valiant both stride upon the Dominus-class chassis, immense and imposing. The Castellan serves as long-range artillery, its dual plasma core feeding a fearsome array that includes a plasma decimator and the vast volcano lance. Twin Siegebreaker cannons and Shieldbreaker missiles crown its shoulders, the latter guided by Raptorous machine spirits that slip through shields in flickers of the warp. The Valiant moves closer still, enduring fire behind its ion shield before unleashing overwhelming force. Its conflagration cannon pours forth a storm of flame, while the Thundercoil harpoon strikes, impales, and reels back, channeling destructive energy through its chain. Under such assault, enemy lines often falter and break. The Knight Armiger is smaller in stature, often piloted by nobles of lesser lineage or by loyal retainers. Long-legged and swift, these walkers strike hard at critical targets. The Armiger Warglaive charges forward with a thermal spear that melts Rockcrete into bubbling ruin, then follows with the sweeping bite of its Reaper Chaincleaver. Its counterpart, the Armiger Helverin, moves with similar speed yet focuses on ranged fire, each bearing paired Armiger autocannons that pour out armor-piercing shells in relentless volleys. Some mount heavy stubbers for simplicity, others fit carapace meltaguns to guard against foes who draw too close. Among these lesser orders, loyalty binds them closely to the greater knights they follow. The Knight Warden is built for confined battlefields, striding through narrow hive streets or tangled forests with shield raised. One arm carries the Avenger Gatling cannon, its spinning barrel sending forth a storm of heavy caliber rounds, while the other bears a chainsword or gauntlet for brutal close work. Meltaguns, storm spear rocket pods, or Icarus autocannons may crown its frame, and even a heavy flamer ensures that no enemy hiding in cover escapes its reach. Cerastus-type knight armors move with greater speed and grace than the heavier errant and paladin forms. They appear fashioned purely for war, born of the violence that marked the age of strife. Among them, the Knight Acheron advances with a Reaper chain fist and flame cannon, leaving scorched strongholds behind. The Knight Atropos carries arcane weapons. The Atropos Lascutter and Graviton Singularity Cannon, created to destroy Heirtech engines and Xenos war machines, though its machine spirits test the sanity of those who bond with them. The Knight Castigator wields the thunderous Castigator pattern bolt cannon, cutting down hordes with relentless fire and blade. The Knight Lancer, swift and highly prized, charges with its shock lance, projecting disruption fields at close range while sheltered behind a concentrated ion gauntlet shield. Beyond these, the Questoris Knight Megara serves as a shock assault engine, armed with a lightning cannon that vaporizes infantry and tears through armor, and the Questoris Knight Styrax bears a Volkite Gearovile, Graviton gun, and Rad Cleanser, with a Hecaton Siege Claw for crushing vehicles and buildings alike. Among the most formidable stands the Agastus Knight, Porphyrion, heavily armed and armored, rare even among the greatest households, such as House Raven or House Weimar. It serves both as devastating war engine and as stern enforcer within its own house, sometimes marked by the shrouded urn that signifies a sanctioned trial by combat against a brother. Its power rivals that of a scout titan, yet the strain of commanding such a machine presses heavily upon the pilot's mind. The Agastus Knight Asterius, deployed in the eras of the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy, was fashioned for long-range destruction. It carries twin ancient conversion beam cannons, relics capable of sundering fortresses in a single blast. Towering close to the height of a stout titan, it strides forward like a giant amidst lesser foes, laying waste from afar. There were also patterns once recorded but no longer considered canon. The Knight Baron, led by a superior warrior, bore thick, decorated armor and combined a battle cannon with the swift striking power lance, guiding his kinsmen through enemy lines with fierce momentum. The Knight Lancer, built for speed and agility, carried a battle cannon for distance, yet relied upon its intensified power lance for close, lightning-fast assaults, striking hard before slipping away. To command a knight is to become bound to it through neural interface sockets set within the cerebrum and cerebellum. The noble sits within the throne mechanicum, umbilical cords linking mind to machine. Through this union, the suit moves as though it were an extension of the body, and the pilot sees and feels through its towering frame. Such grace can rival even the war machines of the craft world Eldari. Manual controls rest within the cockpit. Dials, switches, a throttle, and fire control stick, meant chiefly for Sacristans during maintenance. They allow only slow and clumsy movement, yet in the dreadful event of being thought dead, when the mental link fails, a noble may rely upon them to survive, guiding the knight as one might guide a simple walker. At the heart of every stronghold stands the sanctuary, ancient beyond memory, raised when the first colony ships settled the night worlds. Within it lies the Chamber of Echoes, where young nobles undergo the ritual of becoming. Fitted with sacred sockets, they keep vigil through a long night, seated upon their assigned throne, process is perilous, and some are driven to madness or death by neurological feedback. If successful, the imprint upon the throne magnifies aspects of the noble's nature, shaping how the machine will respond in battle. When a noble dies, traces of their character linger, whispering to those who follow. At the same time, the mind link instills powerful bonds of fealty and respect for hierarchy, perhaps placed there long ago to prevent rebellion. Imprinted thrones are kept within the communion dome above the sanctuary. When the protocols of joining begin, the throne descends through hidden passages into the waiting night below, within the vast vault transcendent. There, noble, throne, and armor unite. Power surges through the frame, great doors open, and the knight steps forward into the quiet inevitability of war. When the Titan legions of the Adeptus Mechanicus move to war, the night worlds do not remain behind. Their households answer the call, sending detachments of towering knights to march beside the god machines. It has long been the custom that when a Titan legion musters, each house offers one or more of its own, bound by duty and ancient obligation. The number asked of them is not always the same. Representatives of the Forge world where the legion is based will request a certain strength, and the houses are honor-bound to comply. Only the most desperate circumstance would excuse them. To fail in such a vow brings shame that lingers, remembered by rivals and by the house itself. So it is that the rallying point fills, banners stirring, engines humming softly beneath layers of heraldry. The full measure of Imperial Knights almost always stands ready, awaiting transport to distant war zones. Once they arrive, there is little delay. They are sent swiftly into battle. Some stride close to the larger battle titans, lending strength where it is most needed. Others range ahead or guard the flanks, swift and vigilant beside the slower war machines of the Legio. For many knights, this summons is greeted with a quiet fire. Different households compete in courage and spectacle, their banners bright against the smoke of war. The chance to earn glory and to leave courtly life behind for years or even decades is counted as a rare gift. At times, the Adeptus Mechanicus decrees that a household detachment will remain with the Titan Legion without end. In those moments, the nobles alter their vows. Their legions and heraldry shift from house to legion, and the master of the Legio grants them a new honorific, a mark of their changed path. The knights do not fight only beside titans. They also march with Astra Militarum, with Space Marines, and with other Imperial forces whenever they feel it is right to do so. Sometimes this aid repays an old debt, as when the 8,032nd Lord of House Hawkshroud received help from the Mordian Iron Guard against Drakari raiders. Under Colonel Vargriff, the Mordian troops defended the stronghold of the Hawkshrouds and thwarted an attempt to seize Lord Hawkshroud's consort. From that day onward, the Hawkshrouds have held themselves bound to aid any descendant of the Vargriff line if called. There are other reasons to take up arms. If a house believes its honor has been slighted, it may send detachments into distant campaigns. Pride runs deep among the knights, and few insults are allowed to pass unanswered. Some have hunted down those who once invaded their homeworld. Others have stood beside Alice to defeat a long-hated foe. Commander Shadowsun of the Tau learned this truth when her emissaries angered the ruler of House Terran with veiled threats and an overbearing manner. In response, he led several household detachments to aid the Imperial defenders of Agrelon. Though the world was eventually overrun, the Imperial Knights were a formidable presence, strong enough that Shadowsun deployed the newly designed X610 Riptide battlesuit to counter them. Yet the struggle left its mark. High King Tybalt's loathing for the Tau only deepened after the defeat on Agralam. He declared that the honor of his house would not be satisfied until the Xenos invaders were driven back across the Damocles Gulf, and the memory of that vow lingers like a distant echo of engines preparing once more for war. The wargear of a knight carries the weight of ancient craft and patient violence. Some weapons breathe fire across the battlefield, like the Acheron pattern flame cannon, a vast arm-mounted flamer that washes whole stretches of ground in searing light, leaving little behind but smoke and fear. Others speak in a harsher voice, such as the autocannon carried by Knight Castellans, heavy and multi-barreled, spitting high-velocity shells with such force that even a Titan's void shields can falter beneath the storm. There is the Avenger Gatling cannon, its spinning barrels a blur, casting streams of large-caliber rounds that sweep through infantry and tear at armor, the air around it alive with a whirring hiss. Smaller bolters sit upon the massive frames of the knights, short-ranged and practical, meant to ward off boarding foes and cut down those who stray too close. The Castigator pattern bolt cannon turns its twin-linked rotary fury upon infantry formations, mass reactive shells bursting in thunderous succession. In close combat, rarer tools appear. An energy whip lashes out, its strike not only wounding but sending a fierce electrical surge through circuitry and control systems, capable of shaking even another knight. The Hecaton Siege Claw, with its 3 prongs, crushes vehicles and rends buildings apart, its strength most often seen in the hands of the Questoris Knights Styrex or the scarce Megara. Ancient sciences linger within the graviton gun, which bends gravity itself so that a target's own mass becomes its undoing, pinning and crushing with unseen force, while Rad Cleanser discharges and searing beams reap a silent toll. The Rad Cleanser, known also as an irradiation projector, unleashes cross-spectrum radiations that boil flesh from within and leave even metal struggling beneath the blast. Defense rests in the Ion Shield, a field projected in a narrow arc before the knight. It must be guided with care, shifted swiftly to meet incoming fire, for it deflects and slows rather than absorbs, and once broken, it cannot be restored in the heat of battle. The front stands guarded, yet the flanks and back remain exposed, a quiet reminder that skill and vigilance matter as much as armor. Missiles arc from the Iron Storm pod mounted upon the carapace, spreading explosive force across distant ranks, while the cannons and lightning cannons send beams of focused energy through armor and infantry alike. Meltaguns hiss at close range, turning stone to molten slag, and the phased plasma fusel breaches positions once thought unassailable. The quake cannon carries the voice of distant artillery, heavy enough to demand thicker armor and slower pace, yet strong enough to shatter buildings and scar titans. The rapid-fire battle cannon answers with steady, self-loading rhythm, casting explosive shells into advancing hordes. And when the knight steps forward into the press of battle, the Reaper Chainfist turns, its twin chainswords roaring as they cut through armor and flesh in one relentless motion. Some weapons are remembered for their sound alone. The Reaper Chainsword rises 3 times the height of a man, its adamantium teeth driven by mighty servos, and the revving roar of its blades has sent many fleeing before it ever struck. Nothing endures its grinding cut, not armor, not ferrocrete, and though it is the mark of the Knight Paladin, it is not bound to that pattern alone. There are quieter origins as well. The shock lance began as a tool to guide great beasts across distant worlds, yet its charge has grown into something far more terrible. Mounted within the visor, it gathers power as the knight moves, dynamos turning and storing energy until, in close combat, it must ground itself through the enemy. Infantry burn, systems fail, and only the largest of foes can safely bear the full arc without risking harm to nearby allies. Upon the carapace, the Stormspear rocket pod sends armor-piercing projectiles streaking outward in bright flashes, their explosions echoing moments later. The Tempest Warblade sweeps with controlled strength, cleaving infantry and light vehicles aside with ease. The thermal cannon exhales a hissing blast that melts walls and reduces battle tanks to bubbling slag, growing deadlier the nearer it is brought to its target, a weapon long associated with knight-errants, though not confined to them. At the heart of it all rests the Throne Mechanicum. The noble pilot is bound to the suit through neural sockets, seated within a control platform that joins mind to machine. Through it, the knight becomes an extension of the pilot's own body, movements flowing with a grace that rivals even the war machines of the Eldar, sight and sensation shared as though armor were flesh. And when the Thunderstrike gauntlet is raised, energy gathers around its clenched fist, sparks falling in quiet arcs before the blow lands. The strike resounds like thunder, crushing armor and hurling wreckage aside with overwhelming force. Above, the twin Icarus autocannons pivot at a thought, dragging flyers and tearing them from the sky in steady bursts of fire. Even the ancient Volkite Chirovile finds its place, a directed energy weapon from a distant age, casting disciplined beams that sweep across infantry at range. Together, these instruments of war rest upon the frame of the knight, each one a memory of older knowledge and enduring purpose, waiting in stillness until the moment they are called to life once more. Heirlooms of the knightly houses are spoken of in hushed and reverent tones. These are singular relics, unmatched and irreplaceable, and many have stood beside their greatest champions for more than 15 Terran millennia. Only one of each exists in the entire galaxy, and when a force of knights marches to war, just one such treasure will accompany them. The banner of Maharius Triumphant was gifted by Lord Solar Maharius himself. in honor of the houses that fought beside him during his Macarian Crusade. It was carried into every battle in which the knight stood alongside the Imperial War Master, borne by a knight seneschal whose duty was both martial and ceremonial. There is a quiet belief that the banner has never known defeat, for whenever it has been raised in war, victory has followed. Its fabric moving in the wind is said to steady the hearts of the Emperor's warriors, who feel that to fight beneath its shadow is to stand on the edge of assured triumph. The helm of the nameless warrior carries a different weight. Many heroes have fixed this ancient faceplate to their knight suits, yet the name of the first suit and the brave pilot who wore it have faded entirely from history. Even so, the helm has become a symbol of relentless ferocity. Some whisper that an unseen essence lies bound within it, shaping the fury of those who wear it. Others believe it is simply the burden of its grim reputation that stirs its bearer to terrible resolve. No certainty remains, only the record of ruthless deeds committed beneath its gaze. There is also the mark of the Omnissiah, modest in appearance and shaped like the cog mechanicum. It seems unassuming at first glance, yet it holds formidable power. When the knight suit to which it is affixed suffers damage, hidden reconstruction protocols awaken without hesitation. Rents in armor are mended, and lost strength is quietly restored, as though the machine itself refuses to yield. The Paragon Gauntlet is believed to be the original masterwork from which the Thunderstrike Gauntlet was first perfected. It is said that a long-lost SDC system on Mars, forged during the Age of Technology, produced that flawless design. That same SDC was essential to the founding of the Night Worlds, granting humanity's early exploration fleets the knowledge to create their towering armored suits. If this tale is true, it explains the extraordinary craft and precision evident in the gauntlet's making. Ravager, the storied Reaper chainsword, has ended countless lives across its long history of service. Its teeth were shaped from the fangs of the Balethrogs, a species of bio-horror long extinct. To gather enough of those terrible canines, many of the creatures had to be hunted and slain by courageous knights. When Ravager is unleashed in battle, its violent bite speaks to that sacrifice, and the one who wields it is reminded of those who gave their lives so that this blade could be forged. And then there is Sanctuary, a potent ion shield born of unusual craftsmanship. A Yoka-era weaponsmith, traveling with his Inquisitor master to the night world of Silver Dawn, found a burned-out generator and chose to tinker with it. Through patient work, he restored and enhanced the device until it projected a stronger and more stable field. The shield could now guard a knight from every direction, though its strength was spread more thinly. Even so, within that shimmering barrier, a towering war engine might stand encircled, protected on all sides by the quiet ingenuity of a wandering techno-savant. Every Imperial Knight is treated as something precious, a war machine held in reverence by the noble who guides it and carefully tended by the Sacristans who keep it whole. Its armor is painted in the proud colors of its house, layered with symbols that speak quietly of its home world, its oaths, and the honors it has earned in battle. No two knights ever appear exactly alike. Even when they share the same lineage, because each livery carries subtle differences shaped by personal history and tradition. Across the towering plates of armor and along streaming pennants, color and iconography proclaim allegiance. The houses have long maintained an elaborate language of heraldry, and through it they declare who they are. These knights compete not only in the fury of combat, but also in the splendor of their appearance, for every mark and symbol carries meaning for the one who bears it. Banners drift from carapaces and weapons, though most often they hang from the great pinions that drive the knight's powerful legs. Once the houses bent the knee to the Emperor of Mankind or to the Adeptus Mechanicus in his stead, their standards became more uniform, shaped by new loyalties. The banners of Questor Imperialis and Questor Mechanicus houses follow a familiar pattern. In the upper half, the full house crest stands unchanged for all members of that line. Beneath it, the lower portion gathers the marks of kills, campaigns, and honors, each arrangement differing according to the deeds of the individual knight and the customs of its house. Some prefer simple fields of color behind their icons, while others favor a denser weave of symbols. These honors blend local signs unique to a house with badges used across the armies of the Imperium, so that a knight who fought in an Imperial campaign would carry the same emblem worn by Space Marines or Imperial Guardsmen who stood beside him. Freeblade Knights follow a different path. Their banners echo the new identities they claim after leaving their houses, often layered over faded colors of the past. Mottos sometimes appear, and skulls or other reminders of mortality are common, reflecting a more fatalistic spirit. Even the reverse of their banners is used, less visible yet deeply personal, bearing catechisms, rolls of honor, and the names of revered ancestors. In this way, loyalty and memory are always carried with them, fluttering softly in the wake of war. The origins of the knight houses stretch back thousands of standard years before the birth of the Imperium of Man, and their heraldry reflects that long passage of time. What began as simple devices slowly grew into complex crests shaped by alliance and hardship. The white horse of House Terran once stood alone, born from a vision seen by its founder in a distant age. Over the centuries, more symbols gathered around it, a helm above, swords behind, marks of ancient battles and shifting loyalties. When Sire Tonius Terran swore allegiance to the Imperium, the crest changed once more. It was divided, half joined with the Aquila, and supported by resplendent eagle wings. The split design quietly reveals the balance each house maintains, loyalty to its own line and loyalty to the wider Imperium. House Griffith carries a different story in its crest. Dragons rise within their heraldry, recalling wars fought long ago against such beasts. Those struggles hardened the nobles into fierce and disciplined warriors, and though the truth behind the dragon has faded into legend, it remains central to their identity. Their banner, too, is halved, a dragon motif paired with a red-winged aquila that declares allegiance to Terra. The ancient and the imperial stand side by side. Among the Questor Mechanicus houses, imagery takes on a harder edge. Tools replace swords and axes, and the half-cog of the Adeptus Mechanicus stands where the Aquila might otherwise rest. Here as well, the division remains. loyalty shared between house and machine cult. House Raven offers a clear example. Its ancient bond with the Adeptus Mechanicus began when a lord of that house witnessed the Magi of Forge World Metallica awaken knight suits long left dormant. Their stronghold, the Keep Inviolate on the night world of Colossi, dominates their heritage, and their crest honors both the fortress and the Opus Machina. Some nobles of imperial-aligned houses also bear personal heraldry upon the front right shoulder of their knight, though among Adeptus Mechanicus houses, such individual marks are often set aside, their independence willingly subsumed without fear. A knight of the Questor Imperialis carries 3 clear signs upon its armor. The major plates bear the house symbols, most often the crest and its lesser devices. The smaller plates show Imperial Heraldry, and on the front right shoulder rests the personal design of the noble pilot, a mark belonging to that warrior alone. In houses aligned to the machine god, personal heraldry is less common, though subtle differences still appear. Many knights also wear a faceplate painted in stark halves of black and white, a quiet tradition repeated across many suits. The symbol of House Crest is an armored gauntlet crushing a serpent. It speaks of their hatred for chaos, a hatred born from devastation. They were the first knightly house to join the Great Crusade, proud participants in the Emperor's conquest, yet during the Horus Heresy, their world of graces was ravaged by traitors and reduced to a poisoned wasteland by virus weapons. 10,000 standard years have passed, and the nobles dwell within void-shielded enclaves, gazing out upon ruin and carrying a deep desire for vengeance. Their icon embodies that quest, and they mark each chaos worshipper they defeat. On Chrysis there lies a place called the Hammer of Traitors, where names are carved and, according to rumor, prisoners are left to perish in the toxic air. Honors are displayed openly. Knights commemorate glorious kills with icons upon their banners or armor, sometimes as small skulls, targeting marks or rings around weapon barrels. House Crest reserves special hatred for the traitor Titan Legion, known as Legio Mortis, whom they blame for their suffering. Their broken death head symbol, marked by a crack, signifies a Titan kill against that enemy. Upon every carapace, there is also a sign of allegiance. The Imperial Eagle, or Aquila, is worn by houses aligned with the Imperium, a mark of alliance rather than submission. Houses that stand with the Adeptus Mechanicus bear the Cog Mechanicum, declaring both their readiness to answer the call of the priesthood of Mars and their reliance on the Forge Worlds to sustain their war machines. Free blades who leave their houses behind adopt the Laurels Fidelis, a skull wreathed in laurel, a sign that though they walk alone, they still fight for mankind until death. Freeblade Knights often choose solitude, though history records times when they have fought together or joined household detachments. Most walk their own path. The reasons are many, and each would carry a long and likely sorrowful story. Some hide behind cryptic names, and whether those titles reveal fragments of their past is uncertain. After long years of relentless war, a knight may even forget the moment he first stepped away from his house. Their armor reflects that separation. Unlike the rich complexity of household heraldry, A Freeblade commonly adopts a single color for his suit, sometimes adding only the simplest pattern. Significant symbols are often confined to a tabard, and even there the decoration is restrained and chosen with care. Each Freeblade shapes his own identity through color and mark, and no two will ever appear the same, their solitary paths written quietly across steel. During the Horus Heresy, the galaxy was drawn into the fiercest civil war mankind had ever known. Those who remained loyal to the Emperor found themselves facing brothers they had once trusted as the War Master Horus reached for power. Bonds that had endured for generations were torn apart, and mistrust settled over the stars. Treachery became as common a weapon as bolters and battle cannons. Among the Imperial Knights, some turned away from their oaths and gave themselves to chaos. Their mortal crews have long since perished, yet their souls endure as demons bound within the hollow shells of corrupted war machines. Over time, the knights themselves have changed. Claws, tails, and other unnatural weapons have grown from their frames, offered as blessings by the dark gods. When a night house devoted to the ruinous powers marches to war, it brings more than steel and fire. Havoc spreads before them, despair follows in their wake, and death walks at their side. After the heresy ended, these renegade night houses, known in High Gothic as the Questor Traitoris, are believed to have fled into the Eye of Terror with the other forces of chaos. There they endured, twisted and reshaped by the mutating power of the warp, and they remain active to this day. At times, when a demonic legion advances, these Chaos Knights stride ahead of it, dark heralds of what is to come. Yet the old conservatism of the knightly houses still lingers in many bloodlines, and so those who truly fall are few. On the battlefields of the late 41st millennium, a renegade knight remains a rare and unsettling sight. Imperial records speak only in fragments when it comes to the knights, and even less is written of those who embraced the Chaos Gods. Most surviving knowledge concerns the renegade nobles who pledged themselves to Slaanesh. Of those who serve other dark powers or who follow chaos undivided as a single force, almost nothing is recorded. The first great betrayal is remembered at the Battle of Molech, when House Divine turned from loyalty. In the long ages since, other knight households have fallen in the same way. Their mortal crews died long ago, but their souls did not pass on. They linger as demons suspended within their war machines, while the knights themselves have grown warped, sprouting claws and other cruel appendages. When a Slaaneshi army advances, these Daemon knights move before it. They are the vanguard, sent ahead of the greater hosts and even the Chaos Titans. Their role is to seek out the enemy, to test defenses, and to draw defenders from their strongholds. Speed and agility define them. They move lightly for their size, circling, outflanking, and hunting down those who attempt to flee. Their methods differ from those of other knightly houses. Shock lances and power lances hold little appeal for them. Like the Chaos Titans of Slaanesh and the Eldari Titans they seek to emulate, they favor ambush and ranged attack over a reckless charge. They do not rely upon ion shields. Instead, A shimmering barrier surrounds them, a shifting aura formed by the warp interface that binds the demonic spirit within its middle shell. This aura is known as the glamour of Slaanesh. It makes the Daemon Knight difficult to strike with precision, much like an Eldari hollow field. Yet such protection falters against wide barrages and weapons that blanket an area without needing careful aim. Because the glamour touches the immaterium, it also grants some shelter from attacks drawn from the warp itself, including vortex missiles and psychic powers. Among the patterns of Slaaneshi Daemon Knights, the Hell Strider is the smallest, though it still towers many times above a man. It carries las cannons and short-ranged knight-sized melta weapons. Swift and relentless, it can flush enemies from woods and ruins with blasts of searing energy. In great numbers, Hell Striders may even bring down a Titan, stripping away void shields with their las cannons before closing in to finish their prey with burning melta beams. Larger still is the Hell Scourge, one of the greatest of these patterns. As living engines in the service of the Prince of Chaos, they have crushed uncounted foes across 10 millennia, their deafening cries echoing over shattered battlefields. They hunt as predators, bounding forward on elegant and powerful legs. When one appears, its form seems to blur beneath the fire of the enemy, and as attention fixes upon it, others strike from every side. Their massive castigator cannons tear through armor and flesh alike. A shared telepathic link binds them together, granting a pack instinct and allowing their assaults to unfold with uncanny coordination, as though each Hell Scourge senses the thoughts of the others across the field and perhaps even beyond it. The Hell Knight stands as one of the most specialized forms. Aside from bolters, it bears a thermal cannon whose short reach is matched by its terrible power, capable of piercing almost any armor. These knights are often unleashed against enemy knights and titans, using speed to strike from the flanks and overwhelm their targets. They excel at ambush, and one of their most infamous deeds unfolded upon the hive world of Kado during a vast demonic incursion. As Imperial forces and the Titans of the Legio Crucius battled the invading hordes, felling countless demons and heretics, a force of Slaaneshi Daemon Knights slipped into the vast subterranean transport network beneath the hive city. Through dim tunnels they advanced, destroying resistance in their path. On the second day of the siege, they burst from below into the main streets and arcades, laying waste to all before them and slaying thousands of helpless citizens. The transports of the Adeptus Arbites arrived, yet they too were crushed. The Hell Knights then drove back toward the surface and emerged behind the Titans of the Legio Crucius. A single massed volley from their thermal cannons reduced nearly the entire Loyalist battle group to molten ruin. Among the fallen was the mighty Preco Dactus, an Imperator-class battle titan that had endured since the Horus Heresy and carried victory to the Imperium across more than 1,000 worlds. As super heavy war machines, Hell Knights cannot be pinned in combat by anything less than other super heavy vehicles or titans. Smaller foes are simply forced aside. They move through enemy lines to set ambushes, strike supply columns, and destroy artillery and support detachments, leaving only silence and smoldering wreckage in their wake. And so the story of the Imperial Knights unfolds, not as a single tale, but as a long vigil stretched across the ages. From the first Long March settlers who broke apart their ships beneath alien skies, to the solemn nobles who stand watch against orcs, demons, Tyranids, and the ancient Necrons, the pattern remains the same. Worlds rise, storms gather, empires fracture, and still the knights endure. Their armor changes, their banners burn and are raised again, yet the code that binds them does not fade. They have known isolation in Old Night, betrayal in civil war, and the shattering of the galaxy itself. They have fought beside titans and space marines, guarded lonely strongholds, and marched into battles from which few would return. Some have fallen to treachery, others to overwhelming force, but most have held fast. In the end, their legacy is not measured only in victories won or enemies slain. It lies in the quiet resolve to stand when darkness gathers, to answer when the call for aid is heard, and to walk forward in iron and faith, even as the stars themselves tremble.